The stars were quiet that night, more silent than usual. On the distant planet of Karath, ancient war machines lay half-buried under centuries of ash and ruin. Once, this world had been a battlefield for 1,000 years, where civilizations rose only to be crushed by bloodshed and betrayal. Now, a strange calm lingered, as if the planet itself were holding its breath. High above the crumbling cities, a small human ship drifted into view. Its silver hull glimmered against the blackness of space. Inside, Captain Elara Kane tightened her grip on the control panel. Her eyes scanned the holographic map, each line representing a lost empire, a forgotten war. Her crew watched her silently, sensing the tension. No one spoke. Words were wasted when the ghosts of 1,000 years hovered in every corner. The humans had been warned. Every intelligence report, every intercepted signal told the same story. Karath was dead, and yet it was alive in its dangers. Automated defense systems, old and forgotten, could still detect intruders. And some said that the planet's ancient warlords, long thought extinct, had not vanished entirely. They had changed, evolved, waiting for the moment to strike again. Elara remembered the briefing on Earth. "You think you're just mapping a dead world," the Admiral had said, "but Karath doesn't forgive. Nothing dies here completely. Be careful, Captain." She had laughed then, dismissing it as superstition. Now, as the ship descended into the smoky atmosphere, the weight of that warning settled heavily on her shoulders. The first city they reached was nothing but blackened towers and twisted metal. Elara's footsteps echoed on the deck as she led her small reconnaissance team through the ruins. Sensors picked up faint readings, energy signatures that shouldn't exist in a dead city. Every corner held a shadow, every alley a trap waiting to snap. And then, they saw it. A figure emerged from the mist, tall and armored in a way that no human technology had ever created. Its eyes glowed faintly red, scanning the intruders like a predator assessing prey. The team froze, weapons drawn. Elara stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. "We come in peace. We are explorers." The figure tilted its head. Then, as if deciding they were not threats, it disappeared into the fog, leaving only the faint hum of its armor. Elara exhaled slowly, but the warning bells in her mind rang louder than ever. Something ancient was awake here. Something that had survived wars humans could hardly imagine. Night fell, but it brought no relief. Strange noises echoed through the empty streets, metallic clangs, whispers of movement, and the occasional distant scream that the wind carried like a warning. The team tried to set up a temporary camp in what was once a grand plaza. Elara kept watch, her eyes never leaving the shadows. She had seen enough battles to know the first mistake would be the last. Hours passed. The hum of the ship in orbit seemed far away, a reminder that their exit was still possible, if they survived the night. Suddenly, one of the team members, a young engineer named Jorin, called out. His voice was tight with fear. "Captain, sensors. Something's moving underground." Elara leaned over the readings. She saw faint, shifting patterns beneath the city, something alive. "Not natural," she muttered. "Karath doesn't let anything die." A sudden tremor shook the ground, sending dust and debris falling from the ruined towers. The team scrambled for cover as cracks formed beneath their feet. From the fissures, shapes began to crawl. Machines that once served as soldiers, now autonomous and twisted, feeding on anything that moved. Sparks flew as they struck the ground, their movements precise, terrifying. Elara raised her weapon, shouting orders. The team fired, but the machines were relentless. Each strike seemed to awaken more of them. It was as if the planet itself was fighting back, refusing to let strangers walk among its scars. Amid the chaos, Elara's mind raced. These machines, these remnants of war, were not just threats, they were guardians of something, protecting secrets buried under centuries of bloodshed. She realized that the humans weren't just explorers here, they were invaders in a world that still remembered war. As the first light of dawn touched the horizon, the battle paused. The machines retreated, but not without leaving their mark. Jorin lay injured, the plaza littered with scorched metal and smoke. Ilara knew this was only the beginning. Karath had survived 1,000 years of war, and now it had noticed humans. And humans were about to show it that they could be something more than just another conqueror. Ilara looked up at the sky, determination burning in her eyes. "We didn't come here to fight," she whispered. "We came to survive, and to learn." But deep beneath the ruins, something stirred, ancient and patient, waiting for the moment to remind all who dared to walk Karatha's soil that no one could escape the shadows of 1,000 years of bloodshed. The sun barely broke through the thick clouds over Karath, casting long, eerie shadows across the ruined city. Captain Ilara Kane moved cautiously, helping Jorin to his feet. His leg was badly injured, and every step seemed to send a sharp pain shooting through him. Yet, there was no time to stop. Something was watching them, waiting. The team moved through the crumbled streets, their sensors still picking up faint energy signatures. Ilara studied the readings carefully. "It's like the city itself is alive," she said. "It's tracking us, and learning from us." A sudden vibration ran through the ground beneath them. Dust fell from broken towers, and the wind carried a low hum that sounded almost like a chant. The team froze. Something moved in the shadows, faster than any human could run, but silent. Then it appeared. Not a machine this time, but a creature, or perhaps a hybrid of both. Its skin was metallic, yet fluid, as if it was forged and grown at the same time. Its eyes glowed a deep amber, and it stared directly at Ilara. The team raised their weapons, but Ilara shook her head. "Wait. Don't provoke it." The creature tilted its head and moved aside, not attacking, but leading. It was guiding them, or perhaps warning them. The humans had no choice but to follow, moving deeper into the heart of the city, where the ruins gave way to tunnels that burrowed underground. The tunnels were alive with energy. Walls pulsed faintly, and strange symbols glowed on the rocks. Ilara couldn't read them, but she felt their meaning: turn back, or face what has survived. Jorin winced as they descended, leaning on her shoulder. The team's usual bravado was gone, fear had replaced it. Hours passed in near silence, broken only by the occasional whisper of the tunnels. Then, they reached a massive chamber, its ceiling lost in shadow. At its center lay a strange structure, like a fortress built into the rock itself. It radiated power, ancient and dangerous. Ilara's pulse quickened. "This is what they're protecting," she whispered. Suddenly, the ground shook violently. From the shadows emerged dozens of the hybrid creatures, moving in perfect synchronization. Ilara shouted orders, but even as they fired, the creatures absorbed the attacks, shrugging off bullets and energy blasts. They weren't just defending the fortress, they were testing them, studying their strength. Jorin struggled to stay on his feet. "Captain, we can't fight all of them," he cried. Ilara's eyes narrowed. She had faced impossible odds before, but this was different. These were not just enemies, they were guardians of knowledge, survivors of a war that had lasted 1,000 years. As they fought, Ilara noticed something strange. The hybrids weren't attacking randomly. Each movement seemed calculated, almost as if they were pushing the humans toward the fortress. It was a trap, or a test. Ilara made a decision. "We go inside," she said firmly. "Whatever is in there, we face it. Running won't save us." The team hesitated, but they trusted her. Slowly, they moved toward the fortress, hybrid creatures parting ways as they approached. Inside, the chamber was filled with holographic projections, showing the history of Karath, battles, betrayals, and the rise and fall of empires. Ilara realized the planet itself had recorded every war, every act of bloodshed. And at the center of it all was something more terrifying than any machine or creature: knowledge. Knowledge of war, power, and survival. A low voice echoed through the chamber, though no one was visible. "Humans, you are different. You destroy, yet you create. You kill, yet you survive. Why have you come?" Ilara stepped forward. "We came to understand, not to conquer." Her voice was steady, but her heart raced. She knew this moment could decide the fate of her team, and possibly of all who would come after. The chamber vibrated as the holograms shifted. Images of humans fighting aliens, defending planets, surviving impossible odds filled the room. The hybrids watched silently, waiting for a response. Ilara took a deep breath. We fight to survive, but also to protect. We will not repeat the mistakes of your past. We will end the cycle of bloodshed, if we can. For a moment, the chamber was silent. Then, the hybrids bowed their heads, stepping aside. The path forward was clear, but Ilara knew this was only the beginning. The knowledge of Karath was dangerous, and the planet itself had decided to test humans before granting it. As they moved deeper into the fortress, Ilara felt a strange mix of fear and hope. Karath was alive, aware, and deadly, but humans were here, and they were determined to survive, no matter what it took. The deeper they went into the fortress, the colder and darker it became. The walls were lined with strange crystals that pulsed with light, like the heartbeat of the planet itself. Ilara Kane led the team cautiously, her hand never leaving her weapon. Every shadow seemed to shift, every echo carried a warning. Jorin limped beside her, still pale from his earlier injury, but his eyes widened at the sight of the glowing walls. "Captain, this place, it's alive," he whispered. "I can feel it." Ilara nodded. "It watches everything. Karath doesn't just protect its secrets, it tests those who seek them." The holographic projections from earlier had vanished, replaced by a series of floating screens, each showing a scene of destruction. Cities reduced to ash, armies falling to unknown enemies, entire species wiped out. The humans realized these were not just histories, they were warnings. Karath was teaching them, showing them what failure could look like. Suddenly, a low rumble shook the fortress. The crystals on the walls brightened, casting harsh light over the team. From the shadows emerged the hybrids again, their movements faster, sharper, more precise. This time, they attacked, not to kill, but to push. Ilara quickly understood. The planet wanted them to reach the inner chamber, no matter the cost. The humans fought with everything they had. Bullets and energy blasts met metallic flesh, sparks flying with every strike. But for every hybrid they disabled, two more appeared. It was exhausting, relentless, and terrifying. Yet Ilara's mind raced, seeking patterns. Humans had always been adaptable, and she needed to prove it now. She shouted orders. "Jorin, use the EMP grenades on the left flank. Mara, cover the rear. We move as one." The team obeyed, moving in perfect coordination. Despite their fear, despite the overwhelming odds, they adapted. They began to anticipate the hybrids' movements, using the environment to their advantage. Crystals pulsed in response to their actions, sometimes helping, sometimes hindering, but the humans adjusted quickly. Finally, after what felt like hours, they reached a massive door, carved with intricate symbols and glowing faintly. The hybrids stopped at its threshold, bowing slightly before retreating into the shadows. Ilara's heart pounded. This was it, the inner chamber. Whatever Karath protected lay beyond. She activated the door, and it slowly slid open, revealing a vast hall filled with alien technology. Machines floated in midair, humming with energy. Data streams flowed like rivers of light, connecting everything. In the center, a massive core pulsed with power. Ilara approached cautiously. A voice echoed again, this time closer, almost human. "You have survived the trials. You have adapted. But can you wield what you do not understand?" Ilara took a deep breath. "We can learn. We can protect it. We can use it wisely." The core responded with a surge of energy, scanning her, analyzing her thoughts. It was alive, not alive in the human sense, but aware, intelligent, ancient beyond imagining. The planet itself had judged them, and for the first time, Ilara felt something she had never felt before: respect. Karath respected human resilience. Suddenly, alarms blared. The fortress shook violently. The planet was reacting. Something had detected their intrusion from the surface. Outside, massive machines, larger than anything humans had ever seen, were moving toward the fortress. The hybrids that had guided them became fighters once more, protecting the inner core fiercely. Ilara turned to her team. "We can't leave empty-handed. Take what you can, but stay alive. This planet is testing us, and we will survive." The humans worked quickly, downloading data, salvaging technology, and preparing for the inevitable confrontation. The sound of approaching machines grew louder, the ground trembling with their weight. Ilara's mind raced. Humans had always faced impossible odds, and now, on Karath, they faced their greatest test yet. As the first massive machine broke into the hall, Ilara raised her weapon, her eyes blazing with determination. Humans adapt. Humans survive. And humans overcome. The battle was about to begin, but Ilara knew this was more than a fight for survival. It was the beginning of something greater. Humans were not just visitors on Karath. They were challengers, learners, and perhaps the planet's only hope to end a cycle of bloodshed that had lasted 1,000 years. The fortress shook violently as the massive machines stormed in. They were taller than any building, armored in black metal that shimmered like liquid, with weapons that crackled with deadly energy. The humans had never seen anything like this, yet they stood their ground, determination burning in their eyes. Ilara Kane moved swiftly, her team close behind. "Focus on survival and strategy. Don't fight blindly," she shouted over the roar of approaching machines. The walls trembled, and debris fell around them. The hybrids that had once guided them now clashed with the intruders, forming a deadly wall of defense. Jorin, still weak from his injury, helped set up energy traps using the alien technology they had salvaged. Sparks flew as the devices activated, sending pulses that disrupted the machine's sensors. "It's working," he yelled, his face pale but determined. Ilara led her team through narrow corridors, using the fortress layout to their advantage. Humans were smaller and faster than the colossal machines, slipping through openings and striking at weak points. Every movement was calculated, every attack precise. The machines roared in frustration, unable to predict the humans' adaptability. Amid the chaos, Ilara noticed a control panel glowing faintly. She dashed toward it, ignoring the blasts that shattered the walls around her. With a few quick adjustments, she redirected energy flows, activating defense turrets hidden in the fortress walls. The turrets fired with unerring accuracy, forcing the massive machines to retreat momentarily. "This planet, it's testing us," Mara, one of the soldiers, shouted as she fired her weapon at an approaching machine. "Every move we make, it's like it's learning." Ilara nodded. "Then we learn faster. We adapt faster. That's what humans do." The team fought with everything they had, combining human ingenuity with the alien technology they were slowly understanding. Despite their smaller numbers, their coordination and quick thinking gave them an edge. The fortress seemed to respond to their determination, the crystals pulsing brighter with each successful maneuver. Suddenly, a shadow fell across the chamber. A machine unlike the others descended from the ceiling. It was massive, its body a mixture of living metal and alien design, moving with a terrifying intelligence. Its eyes glowed a piercing blue, scanning the humans. Ilara didn't flinch. "Team, focus. This is the last wave. We survive this, or we die trying." The battle began in earnest. Every shot, every trap, every move was met with countermeasures. The giant machine adapted quickly, yet the humans anticipated its patterns, exploiting its weaknesses with creativity only humans possessed. Jorin fired an EMP blast directly at its legs, causing it to stumble. Mara climbed a nearby wall, launching explosives into its core. Ilara herself led the final strike. She darted through the debris, dodging massive energy blasts, and reached the machine's control core. With precise movements, she inserted a device they had salvaged earlier. Sparks flew, circuits overloaded, and the machine shuddered violently before collapsing with a deafening crash. The chamber fell silent. Dust and smoke filled the air, but the humans stood victorious. Their chests heaved, their bodies exhausted, yet their eyes burned with pride. They had faced the impossible and survived. Ilara looked around at her team. "We've proven something," she said, her voice steady despite fatigue. Humans can survive. Humans can adapt. And humans can overcome anything. From the shadows, the hybrids emerged once more, bowing to the humans. Their eyes no longer glowed with suspicion but with recognition. Koroth itself had acknowledged their strength and resilience. As the fortress settled into calm, the team took a moment to breathe. The data they had salvaged pulsed with information, knowledge that could change humanity's understanding of war, survival, and technology. The planet had tested them, challenged them, and in doing so, had prepared them for what lay ahead. Ilara stared at the glowing crystals on the walls. "This is only the beginning," she whispered. "Koroth may have survived 1,000 years of bloodshed, but humans will decide what comes next." The chamber was silent after the battle, the massive machines lying broken around the humans. Yet the calm was deceptive. Captain Ilara Kane knew that Korotha's true challenge was still ahead. The planet had tested their strength, but now it would test their mind, their resolve, and their ability to wield knowledge wisely. The data core they had salvaged pulsed with a strange light. Holographic symbols floated above it, shifting and rearranging themselves as if responding to the human's presence. Jorin leaned in, his fingers trembling as he tried to interface with it. "I've never seen technology like this. It's alive, almost thinking." Ilara placed a hand on his shoulder. "Careful. We are visitors here, not masters. The planet decides what we learn, and when we learn it." As they worked, a projection appeared above the core. It showed a map of Koroth, not just its surface, but deep into the planet's layers. Vast networks of energy veins crisscrossed below, like the planet itself was a living organism. The projection zoomed in on a single point, a massive underground structure, glowing with incredible energy. "That's the heart of Koroth," Mara whispered, eyes wide. "Everything is connected to it. Every machine, every hybrid, it all comes from there." Ilara nodded. "Then that's where we go. Whatever Koroth wants to show us, it's there." The team moved carefully, descending into the underground tunnels. The deeper they went, the more alive the planet felt. The walls pulsed, the air vibrated, and whispers of ancient battles seemed to echo all around them. Every step forward felt like walking through history itself. Suddenly, the path split into 3. Each tunnel radiated energy, but only one seemed stable. The other 2 shimmered with danger, warning signs from the planet itself. Ilara closed her eyes for a moment, listening to the subtle hum of Koroth. Then she pointed. "This way. Trust your instincts, and trust humans' ability to survive." The team followed, hearts pounding. The tunnel opened into a massive chamber, larger than any city. In the center floated a colossal crystal, its light illuminating the entire space. Energy flowed from it like rivers of fire and lightning, connecting to every corner of the planet through the veins they had seen on the projection. This is the heart," Ilara breathed. "The source of Korotha's power, knowledge, and memories." As they approached, the crystal began to hum, resonating with their presence. A voice filled the chamber, deep, ancient, almost gentle. "Humans, you have endured trials of strength, intelligence, and will. Now comes the final test. Will you destroy, or will you create?" Ilara stepped forward. "We do not destroy. We adapt. We protect. We learn." The crystal pulsed brighter, testing their resolve. Images flashed before their eyes, civilizations falling to greed, wars repeating endlessly, the consequences of misuse of power. Each human on the team felt the weight of choice pressing upon them. This was more than survival. It was judgment. Suddenly, a massive surge of energy hit the chamber, knocking the team to the ground. The hybrids appeared again, circling them protectively, merging with the energy flow. The planet itself was testing them in real time, seeing if they could handle the responsibility of its knowledge and power. Ilara forced herself to stand, raising her hands. "We are humans. We survive, we adapt, and we use what we learn for the good of all, not for greed. Korotha's bloodshed ends if we are allowed to carry its knowledge wisely." The crystal pulsed once, twice, then slowly, the energy spread evenly throughout the chamber. The test was complete. The voice echoed, calm and approving. Humans, you have passed. The knowledge of Karath is yours to use, but remember, true strength lies not in power, but in choice. The team exhaled, exhausted but triumphant. Jorin smiled weakly. We did it. We survived the greatest test. Ilara looked around at her team, then at the glowing crystal. Humans are not just survivors. We are learners, protectors, and creators. Karath has shown us that, and now it's up to us to decide what comes next. Outside, the sun broke through the clouds above the ruined surface. The planet seemed calmer now, almost peaceful. For the first time in 1,000 years, Karath felt the presence of humans, and humans had proven that they could be more than conquerors. They could be the end of bloodshed. The chamber's light dimmed as the humans prepared to leave. The knowledge they had gained from Karath pulsed in their devices, humming like a heartbeat. Captain Ilara Kane knew that this was only the beginning. Surviving the trials was one thing, using the planet's secrets responsibly would be a far greater challenge. Outside the fortress, the landscape had changed. The ruins seemed less threatening, almost alive with the planet's acknowledgement of the humans. Yet, as they moved toward their ship, the ground trembled. Massive cracks appeared across the surface, and strange energy flares shot into the sky. Karath was not done testing them. Jorin clutched his equipment tightly. Captain, the planet, it's reacting. Maybe we triggered something. Ilara nodded, scanning the horizon. Shadows moved beneath the ground. Enormous creatures, unlike anything they had fought before. They were remnants of Karatha's ancient wars, awakened by the humans' interaction with the crystal. This was the planet's ultimate defense, alive, intelligent, and unpredictable. We adapt, Ilara said firmly. We survive. Humans always do. The team split strategically, using speed and agility to avoid the massive beasts. They employed Karatha's technology to shield themselves and to disrupt the creature's energy signatures. Every move was precise, a combination of human ingenuity and alien tech. The planet's reaction was fierce, but the humans were faster, smarter, and more determined. Amid the chaos, Ilara noticed a massive fissure opening near the heart of the ruined city. From it, energy streams flowed into the atmosphere, forming a storm of light and power. It threatened to destroy everything in its path, yet she knew they had to harness it. Team, focus. We need to stabilize the energy flow using the devices, she shouted. Jorin, Mara, and the others worked frantically, calibrating Karatha's tech to control the planet's energy. Sparks flew, circuits overloaded, and the ground shook violently, but slowly, the storm began to stabilize. For the first time, humans were not just surviving Karath, they were influencing it, shaping its energy with their will and intelligence. The creatures, sensing the humans' control, halted their attacks, observing cautiously. Karath itself seemed to test their ability to balance power with responsibility. Ilara looked at the glowing sky and then at her team. This is what humans do best, she said, voice steady despite the chaos. We adapt. We fight. We learn. And we change the impossible into survival. The storm of energy gradually subsided, leaving the surface calmer than it had been in centuries. The massive creatures retreated underground, the planet recognizing the humans' wisdom and restraint. Karatha's trials were over, but its lessons were only beginning. Jorin exhaled, exhaustion and relief washing over him. We did it. We actually controlled it. Ilara smiled faintly. Not controlled, Jorin. We earned its trust. That's the difference. Power without understanding destroys. Humans have learned to balance both. As the team boarded their ship, Ilara looked back at Karath. The planet, scarred and ancient, had survived countless wars, yet it had found hope in humans. For the first time, she understood the true meaning of HFY. Humans were not just fighters, they were survivors, learners, and protectors. The ship lifted off, leaving the planet behind. But Karatha's energy, knowledge, and wisdom now traveled with them. Humanity had survived the greatest test, and in doing so, had taken the first step toward ending 1,000 years of bloodshed, not just on Karath, but perhaps across the stars. Ilara closed her eyes, feeling the weight of responsibility. "This is only the beginning," she whispered. "Humans have survived Karath. Now the universe will see what we can do." The ship hovered above Karath, its engines humming softly, but inside, the humans felt no rest. Captain Ilara Kane stood at the observation deck, staring down at the planet's scarred surface. Karath had survived 1,000 years of bloodshed, and now its future rested in human hands. But the greatest challenge was still ahead: how to use the knowledge they had gained without repeating the mistakes of the past. Jorin approached, his face pale but determined. "Captain, there's an energy surge coming from the core. It's massive, unlike anything we've seen. If we don't act, it could destroy the planet, or worse." Ilara's eyes narrowed. "Then we act. Not as conquerors, not as destroyers, but as humans who learn, who adapt, who protect." The team descended once more, this time fully prepared. The underground chamber pulsed with energy, brighter and more intense than ever. The colossal crystal, Karatha's heart, radiated waves of power that made the walls tremble. The planet itself seemed to watch them, testing not strength or skill, but wisdom. Suddenly, the hybrids emerged from the shadows, forming a protective circle around the team. They no longer seemed like enemies or mere guardians. They were allies, observers, witnesses to humanity's potential. Ilara approached the crystal, raising the device they had used to stabilize the energy before. "We have survived. We have learned. Now we choose," she said. Her voice echoed through the chamber. "We will end the cycle of bloodshed. We will use this knowledge not to destroy, but to protect life, to create, to inspire." The crystal pulsed violently in response, sending waves of energy through the chamber. The team held their ground as the light wrapped around them, testing their resolve. Visions flashed before their eyes, worlds destroyed by greed, empires falling to hubris, civilizations lost to bloodshed. The planet's warning was clear: one wrong move could doom them all. But Ilara's decision was firm. She activated the device fully, channeling the energy safely, dispersing it across the planet. The pulse of power stabilized, spreading evenly through Karatha's veins, illuminating the ruins and tunnels. The hybrids bowed their heads, and the crystal's light softened, serene and peaceful. The storm was over. Karath was calm, alive, and in balance. Humans had passed the ultimate test, not by strength alone, but by wisdom, courage, and restraint. Ilara turned to her team. "We survived Karath," she said softly. "We faced the impossible and prevailed. Not because we destroyed, but because we adapted, we learned, and we protected. This is what it means to be human." Jorin smiled, exhaustion etched on his face. HFY. Humans. We really are something different. As the team ascended back to the ship, Karatha's energy hummed beneath them, a reminder that life, knowledge, and power could coexist if handled wisely. Outside, the stars stretched endlessly, the future of humanity vast and full of potential. Ilara stared at the glowing horizon of Karath one last time. 1,000 years of bloodshed ended, not by force alone, but by humans. We survived. We adapted. And now, the universe will witness what humanity can do. The ship lifted off, leaving the ancient world behind. But Karatha's lessons, its wisdom, and its energy traveled with them. Humans had proven that even against impossible odds, they could overcome, survive, and rise, not just as conquerors, but as protectors and creators. Above Karath, silence returned. The planet had endured countless wars, yet it had found hope in humans. For the first time in 1,000 years, the cycle of bloodshed had a chance to end, because humans had chosen to be different. Ilara watched the stars, determination burning in her eyes. "We are humans," she whispered. "And we will rise."